and welcome to the Maverick Games podcast. Today is a GDC special and we have some correspondents out on the field joining us. My name's Fraser Strachan. I'm the audio director at Maverick Games, and joining me today is...
Tom Butcher, executive producer.
Elly Marshall, UI UX director.
Gareth Harwood, content director.
Gareth, it's your first time on the podcast.
It is very exciting. Hi, Mum. So I've watched the other ones in awe. I don't know how you make it all look so natural. So
editing. It's all in the editing. Yeah,
try my
It is
best.
all in the editing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm content director at Maverick Games. Really excited to be part of Maverick Games. I think a few people have asked me, what is a content director?
Yeah, what is a content director?
I've been wondering that since.
Yeah,
Oh, thanks.
it's been a few months. Still haven't told us.
So yeah, I'm responsible for managing the content teams. So that's the environment teams and the character teams and all of the technical teams as well. I think my responsibility is building that team, making sure that that team have the right people at the right time, in the right place, in the right mindset, with the correct tools. Been doing a lot of tech and tool stuff, as you will know as well lately. I'm working very closely with everybody else to make sure that we can achieve the vision that we have for the game.
And when something goes wrong in the office, like the hot tap comes off in the kitchen.
It's content, right? So it
Yes.
needs...
The hot tap. I don't know how you guys survived. Seriously.
5 people had to go at that tap before you came in. You were like, what's going on? Water everywhere. We're like, just getting on with our jobs.
But yeah, that's me. Yeah, and excited to be here and talk about Maverick today.
Cool. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And Fraser's maintaining his 100% record attendance on the podcast.
None of you wanted me on this podcast. I just turned up. I knew what time it was. I was here.
Nobody else
we
knows
also
how to
can't-
press the buttons. Yeah.
You got it. So should we start with what we've been playing?
So I've picked up Death Stranding again.
Nice.
So I've decided to put my mind set back into that. So I started playing it a little while ago, and I put it down for life reasons. Life gets in the way of your gaming, doesn't it? So I decided to pick it up again. And when I first started playing this game, I got a big sense of emotion from when I used to play like the Metal Gear Solid games. You know, huge, massive fan of Hideo in these games, and I used to play the original Metal Gear over and over and over and over again. And when I was playing Death Stranding, I got a nostalgia feeling again, I think. So yeah, I picked up this game again, and obviously it's all about delivering, and there's a baby, and there's also so many like different design elements that's compact into this one game. I think the only thing that's missing is like you want to hide in a box.
Yeah.
And
It's interesting you said that because like Death Stranding was quite a departure from like Metal Gear Solid, but also you can totally tell it's like a Hideo Kojima game. It's super interesting hearing you like evoking like nostalgia.
I find the whole thing is so fascinating to me because I never had a PlayStation growing up, so I never played any of the Metal Gear Solid games. Tried to get into like Phantom Limb.
Metal Gear.
Snake.
Yeah, see, I've got no idea what any of this is. And then like
Just
Death
a
Stranding,
box.
and then like Kojima comes out on stage at like things like the Game Awards, and I'm just like, cool. Like I'm sure I'm gonna have to revisit these games, and I'll have that same tear in my eye, just like it all makes sense now.
It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and I think the tone that they gave to the game, you do get a sense of isolation in there. You're kind of like a one-man band sort of thing. But yeah, no, very, very good to just pick it back up again.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Sidetrack on
Go on.
Kojima. Have you seen his new office?
I have, yes.
It's interesting. I think it's a lot to live up to, but I don't know how you build that as an office.
I'm thinking if you are to take the Death Stranding theme, if you're like a postman and you take a parcel in there and like I'm in this big white space and now it's all dark and...
But can you imagine if Death Stranding started out as the Unreal walkthrough of their office? Like you built for our office, right?
Yeah.
So we need to make a game based around our office now.
And
it's obviously a winning strategy.
That's the start, and you leave the office, and then the world is there.
Yeah, and then you go, I don't know, like deliver some stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, the audio suites in there were just like, it was like Starship Enterprise. It was just, I mean, proper studio goals, totally ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure nobody knows what half of those buttons do, but
it's astonishing. Anyone listening should go and watch the video of the studio because it's incredible. But yeah, imagine pitching Death Stranding to the team, and I'd love to be in a pitch by Kojima, because it must have been a hell of a pitch to, like, so you're taking a parcel from one place to another. Sometimes you've got more than one parcels. There's a baby.
I would have been like, yeah. And then what? Yeah.
It's Kojima and boxes. You're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's parcels and boxes involved.
But you don't get in the box this time. You're carrying the box. Who's in the box? No one's in the box. Just forget the box. Cool. Gareth, what have you been playing?
So I'm playing a slightly older game. I think it came out in 2017, called Slay the Spire. So it is a roguelike deck building game where you fight and have to progress up the spire. Every time you complete a battle, you get card upgrades to add to your hand, and then you can fight again. The one thing that I am really impressed with is every time I play it, I have a totally different experience, because when you beat the bosses or the elites or the slightly harder people, or you get to like a treasure chest or something like that, it gives you a artifact, and every artifact has kind of synergy with the cards that you have or another artifact. And there are hundreds of artifacts. There are hundreds of different types of cards as well. So every playthrough is a totally different experience. And
is this your first time with the game, or have you played it before?
It's one of those games that I come back to all the time, because I read that, time to complete thing, and it was like 11 hours. I'm pretty sure I spent about 40 hours on it, and I'm nowhere near completing it yet. But then I also said 100% completion is like 206 hours or something on the game. I'm like, I don't think I'll get that far. But I don't know. It's a game that works for me, because I think I love that synergy and difference every time. I love roguelikes. It's a game that you can pick up and play very easily. I think, as you said, life gets in the way. I have 2 kids, and it's not always easy to carve out 3 hours to go play a game. But you can pick up that game, do a couple of, because it's turn-based kind of fights, and once you complete the fight, you move on to the next one. So each fight only takes like 2 minutes or something. So you can easily put the game down. But I think because you can easily put the game down, you're like, oh, I'll do one more. No, I'll do one more fight and one more fight. Oh, there's elite in a bit, so I'll do the elite. Oh, I'll wait until I get to the big boss, and then I'll stop. And then you get more, every time you get more cards, you get more of this kind of artifacts and all of that going on. So considering it's such an easy game to stop playing, that gives you a reason to carry on playing, because then you're like, I can stop at any time, so I can do another few minutes. But it scratches all the itches for me. I love tabletop gaming. I love board gaming. So I love roguelikes, and I love that artifact synergy thing. I was a huge fan of Risk of Rain when it came out, so it's the same kind of thing where if you pick up the right artifacts and the right kind of cards together, you can whiz through. If you don't, it can be a bit of an uphill struggle, but you can't ever plan for that. So you can't go into the game going, oh, I'm going to play it like this, because you don't know what's the first couple of cards or artifact you're going to pick up that changes your play style. So.
It's got quite a lot of similarities with the art style to Risk of Rain. Like the creature design's a little bit strange and odd, and it's got a really odd sense of humor as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But no, it's easy to play, it's fun. And I picked it up probably about 6 months ago, and it's one of those games I always come back to. I was playing it this week.
It's always installed.
Always installed, and I end up going, oh, I'll play 2 minutes, and then 2 hours later, I've probably should go to bed.
I've not been like that since Gwent came out, and I mean, so I really liked Gwent when it came out because it was completely unbalanced. It was like proper beta, and I was like, I'm amazing at this. I'm totally killing it. And I kept on coming back to it, and every time I did, I was like, right, I'm playing against this person online. I'm going to play this card. I'm totally going to win. And it's like, oh, it doesn't do that anymore. I completely lose because everything I knew about the game had changed since the last time I played it. So I rage quit it. Yeah.
I managed to play the official game of the paper version of Gwent.
Yeah.
So a friend had it, and he brought it in and we played it. And
in Skellige, we were in a tavern in Skellige.
Well, I wasn't. I think I was in an office in Leamington.
Okay.
Did you role play it with accents and everything?
No.
All right.
It's really hard to find though, because I think it came with like the premium version of the box set. And
if you're listening to this podcast, Gareth he looks like a witcher. He's got like long flowing, like grey hair. And
yeah, thanks for that. I'm not that grey yet. I'm turning grey with you lot around.
Hey, I've got more grey than you guys.
No comment.
No.
One more thing on Slay the Spire and Gwent, actually. Those games always do a really great job of making you feel like super smart when you combine like that synergy and you just play like a couple of cards in a row and you're like, man, I'm so clever, like whooping everyone. And that is a lot of the trick in those sorts of games, making the player feel smart, even if they're not smart sometimes.
Although I did play it for about an hour, got to the final boss, and then accidentally clicked the wrong cards and like.
As I say, not always smart.
Yeah, so that was painful. That was like, that was an hour. I could have completed that run.
What about you, Tom?
So I've been playing a little indie game called Signalis. So this is it's by a small German studio called Rose Engine. There are only 2 of them, which is when you see the game, it's pretty astounding.
Yeah, wow.
And it's like this. How would I describe the viewpoint? It's kind of like a almost isometric, but it's 3D and it's very much. It feels like a PS1 game, or at least how you remember a PS1 game. Like it's quite low poly, low texture resolution, but it's got a lot of nice lighting effects, and so it wouldn't be possible on a PS1. And it's kind of set on this like outer planetary mining facility. You play this android that's kind of going in, not really knowing what's going on. It kind of feels like, so you've kind of got those Resident Evil sort of tank controls. So when you pull the gun up, you can't really move much. You can rotate and very slowly move backwards and forwards. The vibes it evokes very much like Resident Evil survival horror. So you very rarely got more than a clip full of ammo. You're just exploring this like mining facility, trying to figure out what's going on. One odd thing about it, I guess not to my taste, but the characters kind of have this like anime sort of manga style to them, which feels very much at odds with the rest of the environment. It kind of works despite that, like atmospherically, despite being kind of like low res, low poly, it's like amazing. The atmospheric is and kind of just you're constantly on edge just because of the sound design and the fact you've only got like two bullets in your gun, and
the style of it is incredible as well. Like you were showing me the UI of the pause menu, like you can go through the signals that are coming through, like change your radio station and pick up like codes and things. And there's like, you'd love it. There's like really like kind of chromatic aberration effect around
it's
the
like
edge
an
of the
old
screen.
CRT.
It's like an old CRT, and it's like proper
Yeah,
curved and everything. And like it's like they've gone just one more thing. Just gonna add another thing, and then there's like another box up here.
And all of that stuff just really puts you at unease, or puts you on like a kind of like everything's not quite right. And one thing I've also noticed, it makes sense now that I read that the developer's German, but a lot of the kind of interfaces, like the monitors and the machinery you're looking at, all have like German words stamped on it. And maybe if you're German, you're just playing the game and it's like, Frankfurt or whatever other German word. You're like, okay, that's just what that is. But and I got this a lot. I don't know if any of you guys have watched Dark or The Rain. And because they're set in, I think Dark's set in Germany and Rain's Danish, you don't recognise any of the actors. Don't really recognise any of the locations. And actually, because of the tone of those TV series, and the same thing happens here, you feel like it's somewhat alien and you're just nothing is understandable. And I think it all contributes to that that atmosphere.
Yeah, it helps you to not get dragged into going, oh, there's Morgan Freeman, like doing that voice. Like they are the actual character, and like you don't get pulled out of it.
Completely, and and I think it even works to that level of like you're looking at a fuse box and it says fusion rather than fuse. It's pretty remarkable, as I say, from a studio of 2 people. I think it might be on Game Pass.
Wow!
So I'd really recommend playing it. I'm playing it on PC. It's great on the Steam Deck as well. If you've got a Steam Deck.
Yeah, especially if it's 2 people, it's good to go and support them. I guess go and play the game.
Totally.
Give them a couple of, I guess, points on Game Pass, whatever pays out.
I don't think that's how. You make it sound like the.
You get like a little. It's like a casino, right? You get like a coin drops out every time someone loads it up.
It's like Waitrose. You get a little token.
You can choose who to give it to.
Exposing ourselves as Waitrose shoppers.
The £7 subscription fee. That's like 7. Each pound goes to a different developer depending on.
We should probably point out these are not the mechanics.
These are not the mechanics. No, just brainstorming here. You know how could a global subscription service
stuff
work?
At the wall.
Yeah,
stuff at the wall. See what sticks. That's Signalis. I'd really recommend checking it out.
Cool.
Phrase.
So I was excited to get my copy of Metroid Prime remastered through the post. It's kind of funny because I remembered I played it on GameCube and remember those boxes are like DVD size. And then I got the post through, opened it up. And it was like a Switch box. And I was like, it's a lot smaller than I remember. Am I just older? But I was really excited to like
Gulliver's Travels.
Yes. I think it was you that was saying the other day that like the sign of a good remaster is if it just feels like it did when you played it back in the day. Like I don't play it and think, oh yeah, this looks like up-res. It's kind of how I remember, which is great. Like it just plays great. It feels dead smooth. It feels really polished. And it's really nice to sort of reaffirm that the game I really liked when I was a kid is actually good. Like I'm not revisiting it going, oh, this was terrible, but I had no context or I just had a whole summer of nothing to do. But it's such a masterclass in level design. Like it's just, I mean, it's essentially now that I've developed games, I can kind of see the craft behind it. That like it's essentially a puzzle game. You go from one bit to the next. There's a room. You go and do that boss. You get a different thing. You go to the next one. I seem to remember it being a bit more like the Crystal Maze, where you could go and decide to go off and do whatever zone.
The map kind of looks like the like let's head to the fantasy zone.
That was the Bill theme tune, I think. Probably would have worked.
Also had an actor called Tom Butcher on it. So there you go.
Cool. Do you just like have that knowledge of other Tom Butchers in the world?
I bought a signed photo of the actor Tom Butcher on eBay because I wanted them to post it to Tom Butcher and them to think that this is 100% serious. To think that they were sending it to the actor.
All right, cool.
I was 14 years old.
Yeah, the things you do.
Did you get a response?
No,
just the signed photo turned up. Yeah, a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I guess to finish the loop on Metroid Prime, I'm really. It's amazing how well thought out the style of that game was. Like, I still don't think I've really experienced a game that's had like weird music like that. It's all very organic, mixed with kind of electric stuff, and
feels like an alien world. Doesn't it?
It does a really good job of making it feel like an alien world. Like there's different rooms you step into, and there's all these different just like sort of creatures and like flying around, and
they scuttle away.
Or they're like flying around. You've got like light trails behind them. It feels really original, and it's done a really great job. It's probably why they remastered it to get people excited about Metroid. And then I'm fingers crossed hoping for that Metroid 4 coming out at some point, but you never know. I might just be eternally disappointed.
Yeah. Metroid Prime is, it as you say, like just the way that they, like the condensation in the helmet and stuff like that.
That was the other thing I was thinking. Like, it's great when you walk through like a steam vent and all of a sudden you get condensation. You see your own face, and it does a really good job of making you feel like in a first-person shooter that you are that person. That you kind of like remind yourself every now and again there's someone behind the mask. It's great. It's really good.
I was listening to TCGS podcast, and one of the presenters on that was saying that it spooked them and became off-putting because they kept seeing a face. Pop up in front of them, which I can emphasise.
Yeah. Did you see that?
No.
No.
Well, as always, you can ask us questions. You can email questions at maverick-games.com. And we have one from Dutch, all capitals, who asks us, what do you think of dev builds in the tech industry in general leaking to the public? Which I thought was quite an interesting question. We probably all remember that the Forza Horizon 3 dev build leaked at one point. I think when I thought about this question, I was kind of turning over in my head what, because it's kind of a grey area, right? It's bad, it's good necessarily. Maybe some people say it's one or two. I think as a developer, certainly, initially it's kind of like, that's kind of annoying.
It kind of depends on the audience, right? Because as a developer that makes it, you're like, oh, that's rubbish. They're going to be able to do all this stuff. But actually, like, if you're the player at home that's kind of ripped it, like, there's I guess there's like a childish excitement to like, I get to see what's underneath the hood. Maybe there's a fascination with it a bit more now that games don't really do cheat codes and things as much. So like, you used to have cheat codes and you'd like be able to get unlimited life or like be able to God mode fly around the world.
I remember the Game Genie.
Yes.
Game Genie.
Yeah. Wow.
I also think it depends when it leaks, because if it leaks before 100%. The game, that's pretty terrible.
That is unanimously bad for as a developer. That is just unanimously bad times. Yeah,
it's just breaks your heart when you've been working on something for like any game is going to take multiple years to make, and if it leaks just before you're about to announce it, that is like the worst thing.
You don't want to happen, and I think every dev build, I think for each game developer is very different. Because it's such a Pandora's box of information. There's so much stuff in there that's been developed over like X amount of years. So there's probably stuff in there the developer actually forgets actually still in there that you can trigger. That you can. There's another world in there. It's like, I forgot that was there.
If you ever go to like the origin 000 in a world,
what's that?
There is all manner of
who put
stuff.
That there?
Yeah, exactly. Horizon was no different. There's a load of weird stuff down there.
I'd also say it's interesting because most dev builds are still pretty techy, so it's not like most people have access to that. Even if a dev build leaks, to be able to get hold of that, install it,
get it running sometimes as well,
and access all of those features.
Yeah.
It's hard enough when you're a dev actually being able to navigate all of those menus, let alone that have no help, training, whatever there. So I think it's maybe not as accessible to the general public as what you initially fear when they come out.
No, totally, and there's all sorts of like security things to consider, like compromising online play. That's something that can cause a problem if the dev builds out there. But on the other side, people figuring out how things work is cool, and as you say, like we as human beings, people like to figure out how things work, and been doing it for years and years and years. So tinkering and poking at things. And
the interesting thing about it is that it's when people would come around to look at the game, or you're trying to get people excited mid-production, it's always that thing where it's like just shove on all the wireframes and the debugs and like make it look as impressive as possible. And you always see those videos of the behind the scenes of someone like sitting there just like doing something you would never do in the real game, like
the Call of Duty one with the opening the dog's mouth. I just remember that.
So it's not really something that's necessary, and you can't really do a huge amount with dev builds and debug builds. I think you could probably do more if you've got cheat codes and they're there for an intended purpose.
Great question. Thanks, Dutch.
Yep.
So the team's been out at GDC. We've been holding down the fort, keeping things ticking over.
Trying, yeah.
Running smoothly.
Yeah.
We've run out of milk.
Cracked out the pogo sticks.
The dishwasher's so full.
So we're really excited about them getting back. But we're lucky to receive some live correspondence from GDC. It's definitely live, right?
Yeah, I think they're coming through now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey Tom, this is Maverick Games live at GDC. We're just outside the convention centre, but as you can see, the queue goes on for absolutely miles. So instead of going in, I'm going to get a coffee, so maybe get something to eat. It's been 2.5 days, it's now middle of Wednesday, and we've made it inside GDC. We've got our badges, we've survived the queue. There are now only 2 of us, we started with 4, but we're now inside GDC. It's also Matt's first appearance on the Maverick Games podcast. Say hello, Matt.
Hello, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Hello, we're Maverick Games, we're at GDC. We wanted to give you a bit of a talk about why people come to GDC because, well, you may have no idea. Number one for us, we're kind of new, so we need to get out here, put the name about, make some friends, talk to different people in different parts of the industry and let them know who we are, what we're about. It's a great opportunity to interact with tech.
It is. It's a really great opportunity to see loads of cool stuff on the show floor. We spend a lot of time looking at Unreal demos, that's pretty good. Learn a lot of stuff.
What's the best part of Unreal?
All of it.
All of it.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible.
Yeah.
It's a great engine style.
Yeah, like just like the new stuff that was dropping, like that, like truck demo going through the water and all the metahuman stuff. Yes.
That was impressive, wasn't it?
It was mega impressive. Yeah, it's like I feel a bit bad for some people because there are other people selling like equivalent tech for a lot of money that is now just part of the Unreal Engine. It's kind of like
Sorry,
kind of feel bad for those guys.
Thankfully, so far, no AI solutions that can just generate a game from a line of text. I've still got a job.
Been probably about 3 months of that. H, how's your show been?
It's been great. It's been really nice to catch up with old industry friends, make some new friends. Just walking around the expo this morning, it's been really interesting. Went to a Women in Games chat this morning, which was really good. The chat we went to, that was great, wasn't it?
That was fantastic, wasn't it? About salary transparency. We love salary transparency. We're going to do some more of it now, haven't we?
Yeah. We've got so many ideas, so yeah, it's been great. A bit tired now, but it's been pretty good.
It's been a good week.
Alright, and of course, the number one reason that anybody comes to any conference is swag. So we thought we'd do a swag review of what other people have been handing out. The only Maverick Games swag is a beer mat, which we actually have here. But my favourite theme of swag this year's show is the amount of socks. Like, I didn't even get all the socks, but there's like Perforce socks.
Perforce socks, my favourite.
I like Perforce ones actually. My kind of sock, even though Perforce is not my kind of thing.
Funny thing, we were at the Perforce stand and Matt was having a genuinely serious conversation with the people from Perforce about like using Perforce on our game. Like, Matt, there's socks, Matt. Just waving socks at the socks. So we got Perforce, PubNub, I don't know what they are.
But thank you for your socks.
Microsoft. Like, we know Microsoft, they're friends. H, what's your favourite bit?
Oh, do you know what? I think it's the duck, the random duck that we picked up from Backtrace.
So what did Backtrace do?
I'm going to Google it.
They give out
I'm
ducks.
really sorry. It was whilst we were rushing. I'm sorry. We will do some research into what you do. I promise. But we do like your duck. Thank you.
We got this. This was from Wales, as in the country Wales. They just had a stand here. It was just like
all this way to get that.
Yeah. We have Welsh people in Maverick, right? So Gareth, I'll bring this home for you. Yeah, that's your gift. The Amazon thing's pretty sick.
Oh, this is great. This is probably, I reckon that's the coolest.
I think that's number one as well.
Yeah,
that's
that is.
actually
Yeah.
It's a MagSafe charge for an iPhone. It was like handing out.
We really like these. We've already made use of this, so thank you, Amazon. That's been great.
This thing. This is from Marvelous Designer. It's tissues. Thanks.
Very useful.
Thanks. I got this dice from somebody. It's a dice with an ant on it.
congregate. Congregate also gave us this thing, which is cool. Yeah, so it's got a little cactus counter on it,
So cute.
and then you can use that to like take your swings.
I like that. Sunglasses.
We're actually gonna. Is this how we sign off? Is it?
So it's end of the day. We're still here at GDC. We've been checking out the new update to Unreal Engine. Say hello, everyone.
Hi.
Anyway, so it's been an incredible week. This is end of the last day. They're actually getting everyone kicked out now. So yeah, any last updates, guys?
Ben, didn't get a chance to speak here earlier.
No updates.
Oh, bloody hell, we're in the Web3 NFT zone. Run, leggings!
All right. Okay, that was a little strange. Thanks, Mike, for that.
Yeah, thank you. Seems like they're enjoying themselves.
Yes. All right, cool. So I thought this week we could talk about game dev nightmares, and by nightmares I mean bad things that we might have done, we've been exposed to, we've seen happen, stuff we might not be proud of, but we did it to get the game shipped. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Oh, straight in there. I love that. That's why we got Gareth on the podcast.
It's all the content, isn't it? It's all the content that you direct.
Well, when you see the quality of this content,
Buckle up.
I remember, so I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, Forza Horizon Original or Forza Horizon 2. I was doing a number of scripts to automatically place all of the materials with correct retro-reflective kind of materials for white lines and like the road signs. So that when your headlights
hit it, they bounce off.
They bounce back correctly. Cool. So that's the retro-reflective stuff. So wrote a bunch of scripts, ran them all, and was all good. And then once it had done, I removed all of the old stuff because it wasn't needed anymore. Optimization, making sure it all as optimized as possible. And then I think once we shipped, I was driving around and headlights fell on this one bit of road that when the headlights fell on it, instead of the retro-reflective coming back as like, the correct white line type thing as you'd expect to see, they went fluorescent pink, like bright neon.
Like the signs in here.
If
you're watching the YouTube version of this podcast.
Like a debug color pink.
And there's a reason why do they pick pink as like the something's broken?
Because it's an unusual color to see, I think. So then if you see that color, you associate it with something is wrong.
Yeah.
Although in a later game, we did use that color as one of like the main light colors, and every time I saw it, I'd be like, "Oh, is it broken?"
Oh no,
no, that's the color it's supposed to be. But yeah, I found out the reason why it didn't work is somebody else had those files checked out at the time, so I checked everything out, did a bunch of work on it,
and when you check something out, perhaps explain for the listeners. I know, of course, what that is. But
sure, you ever check it?
Actually, when you hear my story, you'll know I know what that is.
So there is, we have like a source repository, which is where all of the game data is. And if you want to work on that data, you kind of have to say that I'm working on this data, I'm editing it, and it locks it for any other user so that they can't do that. So only one user being able to edit some of that stuff at the same time, because it's not like, the cloud at the moment that you can all edit the same files at the same time. Like,
not yet.
If you're working on like a 3D file or shaders or something like that, you can't share it. So you'd lock it. So then I checked out everything, not realizing that these few files had been locked, and I didn't have access to them. So when I deleted all of those files that we didn't need anymore, it turns out they were still being used by a very small stretch. So if you're ever playing Forza Horizon at night and you drive over that strip and you see the bright pink retro-reflective kind of...
Think of Gareth.
It's me.
Soz.
Sorry for that. But...
I remember speaking to someone once who had gotten so annoyed in the late stages of development of animations changing, because a lot of animations you have to tag up with sound effects, had gotten so annoyed with this happening that had intentionally checked out the whole depot and made people come to them to get the file checked back in so that they could get
that is Not only is that like passive aggressive, it's also really annoying. Don't ever do that.
No, just
Anyone listening, any aspiring game developers, don't do that.
do not do that. No.
Thanks for sharing that, Gareth.
Yeah. I feel like I've got a weight off my shoulders now.
Brilliant. That's what we're here for. It's confession time.
Thanks.
Maybe we'll do this every week.
Yeah, it's quite cathartic.
Sharing's caring.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Phrase?
There are two specifically I can think of. One was I was given the task of adding these sounds to what we call smashables, like these objects in the world that you can smash into. I was given just like a folder of files to just implement, and I didn't realize it was all just going to start working. So I basically implemented them, checked them in, went home, came in the next day, and there was like a review in the morning where somebody like had loaded up the build, and apparently they'd just gone, "You do not want to be in that review." Me, oblivious, I was just like, do. But apparently I'd checked them all in at like full volume. So as you went through like a field, it was just like a machine gun going off, just like.
Do we have a?
Yeah, exactly. So that was a pretty bad one. I also remember I only had this one day to go and record this car, and you just can't really record cars that well if it's tipping it down with rain. And the night before, it was the most torrential rain that you've ever seen. Like, I was staying in this old country pub in England, and it was one of these places where the guttering was kind of broken outside your window, so it was just a river down the window. I was, oh my god, this is gonna be so bad. And then when I got there, it was completely soaking wet. And the only way that I managed to get through that session recording the McLaren Senna was because I had stolen the shower caps from the hotel and we'd managed to put them around the microphones. And because I'm probably going to be able to come back with some usable sound, but the fact is all the equipment was worth like £10,000. So I was like, oh my god, I do not want to go back with. Well, yeah, got the car, but we're gonna have to replace all that stuff now. Luckily it all worked out, and but that was not an easy recording session.
So you have the shower caps, just every time you go out for a session now.
Still got them, yeah.
Got to take them with me. Good luck.
It's a weird memento to have in your pocket, isn't it?
Okay, I'll go next. So people that follow me on Twitter will have seen I've tweeted this before. At FreelanceP, by the way, if you want to follow me. Shameless plug. So I was working on a DS port of a little well-known movie franchise, and I was the producer on that. And because it's quite a small team, you end up as a producer, you do quite a lot of things like design and other things that we didn't have a dedicated audio guy. This is going to really trigger you, by the way, Fraser, apologies. We didn't have a dedicated audio guy, nor did we have any budget for audio outside of the music that we
it just gets worse.
Just wait. There was a 360 version of the game. And yeah, because we didn't have any money for audio assets, I got all of the 360 assets, crushed them down to 11 kilohertz, and just use those. Just open, free soundbits.
I'm surprised you weren't there with your phone or with a recorder just up to the
Honestly, that
TV.
would have been better. That would have been better than what they sounded like. So they were just I have one other quick one. So this was when you're doing VO recording. So the script is like a massive Excel file, have all the lines written there, and then all various trigger information and what have you. And we had an editor that was external, but they had access to the script files. So unfortunately, when you open Excel, it doesn't tell you if you've checked the file out. So I'd opened the file and I was doing as recorded. So I'm listening to the lines, I'm typing out what the line says, and then moving on to the next line, doing that for hundreds of lines over the course of the day. And I then finished for the day, closed the script, and then the editor came online later that evening, checked it out, did his bit, overwrote everything I'd done that day. But he just came out, checked the file out, checked it back in, totally normal. It was completely my bad. I then came back in, opened the file. I was like, huh, that's weird. None of my changes are here. Scrolling down, like, oh no,
Slowly down.
Oh no. And so yeah, Elly, I'm really excited. Just for everyone listening. So we haven't told each other what our stories were going to be, so that we can react. So I'm really excited about listening to this.
Game dev nightmares. It's been
Just nailed it.
perfect. all
Goody
the way
two
around.
shoes.
Well, that's also a great story.
Yeah.
And very unlikely, I should say.
I had there's one that kind of springs to mind, and this was years ago now, and Dirt 2 and F1 nearly had a baby. And it was we were at the end of Dirt 2, so the consoles had shipped, great, brilliant, amazing, but PC was left to do. And by this point, you know, there's a few programmers left on the PC. They were just doing the bugs here and there, and that was almost ready to go. It was just.
So they didn't ship on the same day, or
no. So the consoles went out first. Consoles first, and then PC was going to come out like a few weeks later.
Okay, cool.
By that period, a bunch of us had moved on to F1 2010. So our first Codemasters' first F1 game at the time, I started to create these UI components, like very deep nested components. Like the systems we had in place, you know, they were named the same as like the Dirt 2 core components and stuff. Like,
so they weren't like Dirt 2 _ blah blah blah.
No. The folder structure was the same in certain instances. And there's a script that we had inside the UI pipeline that we were using. And after I'd finished creating all these components, all these little unit components, these textiles and everything, because it was kind of like the foundation of just some of the core kind of menus that we were doing and the material libraries and stuff. So we had this script, and the script would run automatically. So it would check everything out in Perforce, and then check it all in.
That sounds useful.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
It was useful, but I hadn't used this script for a very long time. Like throughout the whole of the Dirt 2 dev process. So I used this script, and it exported everything into Dirt 2 and checked it all in. So I went up to the lead UI programmer. I said, Paul, this is Paul Penson.
Oh, legendary Paul Penson.
I said, Paul, I've done something really bad.
Because the thing is, when you do that, it takes ages to start checking things out, and then to refresh it. So even if it's like an innocent mistake just after you've clicked it,
it's too late.
Oh no!
Because of the one bit of the file pass. And you know, where I was checking them into, it would have been a dormant folder, and it was beginning of a project. But no, I remember seeing Paul just going through each of the files individually.
Did he pinch the bridge of his nose?
Bless him, he was very calm about it.
He always is, isn't he?
No.
I think there's a rite of passage about checking out the whole of Perforce.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Because when you're working with a source control like that, it takes seconds to check it out. But then, regardless of what you do next, whether you check it in, whether you revert it, whether you try and back out of it, it will run a check on every single file against every single file on the server to see if there is a change. So you're talking about hours. So it takes seconds to check it out, and then hours to check it back in. And it happens about once a project.
Yeah. You get that email saying, just go make a cup of tea. Like it's gonna be a little while. Go for a walk. Have your one-to-ones. Like
I think a lot of people are gonna be listening to that thinking, oh, so close to having like F1 cars in Dirt.
Oh, multi-class. That's what we want.
What would you call it if you're combining F1 and Dirt 2? F1 2.
Fert.
Def one.
Right. Okay. Thank you everyone for sharing those. I hope you all feel like you've got a weight off your chest. You feel like, oh, that's better. And we'll be back to confess to more dev horrors.
Do feel a lot better. I think we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
So if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like or subscribe. If you're watching on Spotify, give us the 5 stars. It's helpful in ways we have no idea why. But yeah, do it anyway. You can follow us on Twitter, all that social stuff. And yeah, hopefully join us next time on the next podcast. But until then, goodbye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Maverick Games podcast. If you'd like to join this adventure, head over to www.maverick-games.com.